To welcome once again Venerable Pemasiri Nayaka, who's kindly agreed to join us again. And I want to welcome everyone who's tuning in. And I'm going to ask a question at the beginning, and then if we have time for questions later on, if you can raise your hand or chat with Dima, you could even say what your question is or whether you want to be on screen. Anyways, that kind of thing you can do through the host. So people have asked, who is, Sumatipala Nayaka, who was Sibali? So I got out some photos that sometimes, it's nice to have a picture of who, then people will know who we're talking about. So Dima, you want to bring up? So this is our teacher, Sumatipala Nayaka Thera. Pemasiri and I were both ordained by him. I think I took that picture. I'm not sure, but so then the next picture is Bhikkhu Sivali that Reverend Nayaka brought up, and Bhante spoke about him last time. This is a young Bhikkhu Sivali. And then the next picture is Bhikkhu Sivali in Hawaii about a week before he died. We were at a retreat that Jack Cornfield and Joseph Goldstein and Venerable Sivali were teaching in Hawaii. So then next picture, a little younger Lokohamdra. Next picture. Oh, that's me.
Oh,
That's Bhikkhu Mahinda. That was my visa photo. I went into Kandabodha, right, and this was right after I'd done my first meditation retreat at Kandabodha. So anyway, next picture. On the left is Bhikkhu Bodhi, and in the center is Venerable Nyanaponika Thera. And they're at Kandabodha in this photo. And there's a nun in the background, and I don't know who that is. Does anybody? Bhikkhu Bodhi. Nyanaponika Handra.
Locams, the nun is from Brazil.
Oh.
Oh. So there is a story which is kind of one of the stories that the people that are here know. There was a couple that came and ordained, but even though they were both ordained, they they were still visiting too often. So after about 3 weeks, Lokam told them, listen, if you want to continue this way, you do it somewhere else. But if you mean your practice seriously, let's send the husband or the wife somewhere far away in the center of Sri Lanka where you cannot really go and visit every time. So then they accept. Lokam says now recently, but that means maybe in last 5 years or something, they came and they are now old and they asked Lokam, do you know who we are? And he was like, no, I can't remember. Then they said, you remember you sent off my wife to the like Bandara, and then yes, I remember.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, next picture.
Next picture.
Reverend Lakana.
Lakana?
Yeah. Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah. And then next picture.
Yes, Lokam says he has lost some weight since he remembers.
Reverend Samita.
Samita.
Houston Metta Vihara.
Okay.
Houston,
Samita.
Texas. Yeah. Next one. Reverend Nayaka.
Nayaka. Nayaka. Okay.
Yeah. Next. Oh, there's Dimitri. In his kuti at Sumatipala Nahimi Senasan Aranya.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's sleeping. No, I'm kidding. He's meditating, I think.
Because it is, the new schedule is there on the wall. So it must have been recent.
Peter, Reverend Peter.
That's the Canadian.
Yes. I don't know his monk's name.
He might be Michael. I'm not sure.
No, Peter.
No, Peter. Sorry, Peter. So
So these are all, everyone came through Kandabodha or Venerable Pemasiri's Aranya. So these are people. I believe Reverend Samita was ordained by Sumatipala. I think right near the end. Anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Lokam says he was the last person that got ordained by Venerable Sumatipala. After Venerable Samita, he did not ordain anybody afterwards.
Yeah, I thought so. Hyundai. Okay, now I'll ask a question. And today in these days on YouTube and the internet, there are all kinds of people with videos, and the title is, What is Enlightenment? And there's a lot of different answers to that question. And I thought it would be nice to hear from Lokohamdro. What is enlightenment and how is it realized or experienced? What happens? So that's the question.
I translated the question. There is a little bit of problem because in Sinhala, they don't use exactly the word enlightenment per se. So I had to use the words like realizing Nibbana or the end goal of our practice, because they have many specific terms and each of them refer to different aspects of that thing. So I translated that basically as realizing Nibbana, if that is okay.
Okay.
මොකද අවබෝධය කිව්වොත් වෙන තේරුමක් තියෙනවා.
ඔව්. නිවන ගැන කියා දෙන්නකෝ ඉතින්.
So because I translated it that way, Lokam says we have to talk a little bit of what is this Nibbana.
නිබ්බාන කියන්නේ කියන්නේ ආකාශය වගේ.
In a way, it's like space.
ඒ ස්පේස් එක පේන්නේ එක්ක වලාකුළු වලින් එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ ගස් කොළන් වලින්.
But in Sinhala, the word actually can mean something like air itself. So Lokam says you cannot really apprehend air or space itself unless there is something there like the sky or clouds or other things which kind of delimit it, give you some idea about the space and air. You cannot apprehend the air or space itself.
කිසිම අරමුණක් නැති තැන.
It's a place without any object.
විඥානස්ස නිරෝධයෙන්.
Or the other words are used is the usually translated as cessation, or where the consciousness has ceased.
අපි උපමාවක් කියනවා.
We can make, there is like simile or example for this.
ආකාශෝ භික්ඛවේ න ජීයති න මීයති න චලති න උප්පජ්ජති න චෝරෝ අර විහංග ගමනෝ නිරාචරණෝ.
So there is first a couplet of verses about the space or air.
ආකාශෝ භික්ඛවේ.
So, oh monks, the space is thus.
න ජීයති දිරන්නේ.
It's not decaying.
න මීයති මැරෙන්නේ.
It's not dying.
න චලති එළවෙන්නේ.
It's not shaking.
න උප්පජ්ජති නවත හැටගන්නක් නැහැ.
It's not arising or especially not again arising.
න චෝරෝ හරති හොරුන්ට ගෙනියන්න.
The thieves cannot carry it away.
කුරු විහංග ගමනෝ කුරුල්ලෝ ඉකිල්ලෙනවා.
And it is a place, it is the birds that travel through it.
නිරාචරණ කිසිම ආවරණයක් නැහැ.
And it's not possible to cover it up.
ඒක අනිත් පැත්තට බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ කියන නිබ්බානම් භික්ඛවේ න ජීයති තිරන්නේ.
So then the Buddha continues, oh monks, Nibbana is also this way.
න මීයති මැරෙන්නේ.
It's not decaying, it's not dying,
න චලති
it's
එළවෙන්නේ.
not shaking,
න චෝරෝ
it's not
හරති.
disturbed, it cannot be carried away by
න
thieves.
චෝරෝ හරති විහංග අරිය ගමනෝ.
And it's the Aryans, the like realized people that are traveling through that.
නිරාචරණ.
And it is also not like possible to cover it up.
නිබ්බාන කියන එක මේ කෙලෙසුන්ගෙන් හිස් කියන එක. කෙලෙසු නැහැ.
In other way, the Nibbana is explained is it's let's say something, or it's defined as the it's defined like there are no defilements, there are no hindrances there.
එක නිවන්නක්වත් නැහැ.
I don't want to say a place or state because then, but in English it's almost impossible to say without that. So let's say it's a something where there are no defilements, no hindrances at all.
සංයෝජන නැහැ.
No fetters.
සංයෝජනය කියන්නේ ගැට ගැහෙනවා. එක එකතු වෙලා
Fetters,
හැදිච්ච මානසික මට්ටම් වලට සංයෝජන කියනවා.
fetters, as the name suggests, is something where our mind is stuck or like bound to different things through our different mind levels.
ඒ මොනවාක්වත් නැති තැනට නිබ්බානයි කියලා.
So we can say, let's say, a place which is free from all of those things.
මොනවා හරි තිබුණොත් ආයත් පුනබ්භවයක් හට ගන්නවා.
If there is anything, that means that leads to renewal of existence or rebirth.
රූප රාග, රූප රාග කියලා.
It can be even a subtle thing as this attachment towards the immaterial experiences, like these higher, so-called higher jhanas. So even that itself leads to some kind of rebirth and rebecoming.
ඒක මනසින් ස්පර්ශ කරන්න පුළුවන්.
But this thing or something called Nibbana, it is possible to touch it with the mind.
ඒ නිසා පච්චත්තං වේදිතබ්බෝ කියලා කියනවා.
So that's why in the definition of Dhamma, the last bit is translated, it is to be experientially known by the wise.
වේදිතබ්බෝ මේ ජීවිතේම විඤ්ඤෝ ඉන්නවා.
Within themselves or on their own. So this Veditabbo means to be known, like it especially experientially known. It ought to be known by the Vinyo, that means the wise people. Pachatta means on your own. It's like your own experience.
එතකොට නිබ්බානය කියන්නේ එක මේ ලබනාත්මයකන් ඕනේ නැහැ කියන්නේ.
So for Nibbana, we don't need to consider this talk about the like next birth and things like that.
ඔක මේ ජීවිතේට ක්‍රියාත්මකව කරගන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක්.
It's something that can be like experience, or like we can manage for that to function in this very life.
ඉතින් ඒක කාටත් කරන්න පුළුවන්. බැරි කට්ටිය වෙන්නම ඉන්නවා.
So Lokam says it's all, for almost everybody it's possible to experience it, but there is a certain number of beings or even people that cannot do it in this very life.
පතින් ඇස් නැතිය, කන් නැතිය, නාසය නැතිය.
So this is the cases of people that from the conception itself don't have one or more of the faculties in working order.
උපත්ති නා.
Here it means really from the conception itself. So if you let's say lose eyesight because your mother did something when you were in the womb, you are still okay. So this means already from the conception itself that future human being has lack of at least one of the faculties is so basically everybody that has the sense faculties from conception intact can realize this thing. But so Lokam now quotes this end of Karaniya Metta Sutta, the loving kindness sutta. It says for that to happen, one needs not to adhere to or depend on any views. So when I asked what is meant by that, he says it basically means your view needs to be well purified. So one of the aspects of that is this idea that this has been created by somebody. So for the realization you have to be free from ideas like that. So why people cannot realize the Dhamma or the Nibbana also is because of our views actually. So this word used in the Pali is Darsana, which is usually translated as vision or kind of seeing, and this in this case especially refers to seeing things exactly just as they are. So this is the before what Lokam mentioned before about not adhering or depending on views, adds and some other factors for the realization. So the next one is being endowed with this vision. So that means you are equipped with seeing the things as they are. So the next one is it's like you are removed from sensuality. It's the rough translation. So Lokam says means normally whenever we experience any object, that means any object we are experiencing, either there is some kind of holding onto it or grasping after it, or rejecting it, or kind of friction with that object. So this next quality is the opposite. You are free from both holding onto and conflicting with objects.
ඔය දැක්කම දැක්කපු දේ රසණයි කැතයි කියන එක වෙනම දෙයක්.
But now if something seen, like you see something with your eye, knowing that it is beautiful or ugly is another thing.
බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ නිවන් දැකලා ඒවුනාට කිව්වා සත්සම්බරිතේතිය රාමණ්‍යය වේදාලිය රාමණ්‍යයි.
So we should consider the Buddhas. I think what Lokam is trying to say, some people have this tendency of mixing up our mundane conventional reality with the ultimate reality all the time. So Lokam says now the Buddha has realized Nibbana. He has achieved the full liberation as a Samma Sambuddha. Yet when he was going through this countryside, he mentioned to Ananda, look, this Chaitya or shrine over such and such shrine, it is beautiful, it is lovely, and the other shrine is also lovely. So
ඉතින් මේ නිවන කියන එක සිතින් පමණක් ස්පර්ශය කරන්න පුළුවන්.
So Nibbana it is possible to touch or come in contact with Nibbana through the mind only.
ඒකට ඒකට යන ගමන ක්‍රමයක් යවුවා නේද?
Oh, ඒක යන ගමනකුයි අර අවබෝධ කාලේ විඳිනවා කොහොමද? So the way I understood it, you were asking how to get there, and also when that happens, how it's experienced.
යන ගමන නම් කියන්න පුළුවන් කියන්නේ.
Lokam says, I can tell you about the way that leads up to that point.
මේ ඇස්කන් ආසාවට එන අරමුණු තියෙනවානේ.
So there are objects that are coming normally through our eyes, ears, and so on.
ඒවට ආයතන කියලා කියනවා.
So those there is this thing, or these things called ayatana in English, translated as sense bases.
ආයතන කියන එකේ තේරුම අලුත් අලුත් දේවල් නිපදවනවා කියන එකයි.
So the word sense base or ayatana, the word ayatana Lokam says should be understood this way. It's a place where always they are producing something new.
එහෙන් දැකපු දේ අලුත් අලුත් දේවල් නිපදවන්නේ.
Oh.
ඒක කණෙන් අහලා අලුත් දේවල් නිපදවන්නේ. ප්‍රපංච අපි අනුරුද්ධානන්ද කිව්වේ ප්‍රපංච සංඥා සංඛාර සමුදාචර ප්‍රපංච හදන්න එපා කියලා.
Oh.
ඒ වගේ ප්‍රපංච අලුත් දේවල් තමයි එහෙන් දැකලා දැකීමෙන් ඉවරයි. දිත්තේව දිත්ත මාත්‍රා.
So the proper way is to stop it. So as a new object comes to your ear or eye, it should stop as soon as you just hear it. It should stop there. As when you see it, it should stop there. There are a few suttas where the Buddha says what people do. There is this. It's like this is kind of compound word which means something like there are running or going on these ideas connected with mental proliferation and perceptions. So this bunch usually starts happening on top of the raw data coming from the senses, and that's the one that needs to be curbed or like reduced as much as possible. We have some nuns offering flowers today. Oh,
එතකොට දැන් ඇහෙන් හැමදෙස්සෙම අපි ඇහෙන් එක එකව නිපදවන අලුත් අලුත් දේවල් කනෙනුත් එහෙමයි නාසයෙන්ුත් එහෙමයි.
So with the sense organ of eye and ear, nose, tongue, and body, always new things, new objects or issues are being produced.
ඒ නිපදවීම නතර කළා.
So this kind of production has been stopped.
ඒ නිපදවීම හැදෙන්නේ තණ්හා මාන දිට්ඨි කියන උපාදාන තුනේ.
So the ones that are doing the production is tanha mana ditthi upadana.
ඔව්.
Is the
තණ්හා මාන දිට්ඨි.
clinging that happens through either craving, conceit, or views.
ඒකට උපාදාන කියලා කියනවා.
So this like a bracket term for these three or some combination of them is called upadana or clinging.
ඔව් ඇහෙන් තණ්හාවට උමනා කරනවා එක්ක හදනවා එක්ක දිට්ඨියට එක්ක මාන්නයට.
So cunning come and click that.
අනේ ඔක්කොම.
So Lokam usually says I, but because it can be in English confused as the pronoun I meaning to me, I will use the ear to be clear about this. So we are always getting these sense objects coming through the ear, and whenever then an object is arising there, it is either like ready to be grasped through craving or through conceit or through will.
ඔව් ඒක නැති වෙන වෙලාවක් නැහැ.
It's like almost there is no time when we are free from this kind of thing happening.
එතකොට ඩේවිඩ් ලෙනඩ් මේක කඳුබඩදී පුඩු කොලා ඇහුණා හිතුණා මෙනි කරන්න කිව්වා.
So when David Leonard, this when Mr. David was staying in the old Kanduboda, he got used to this practice where you stop it at the bare sense experience. So you note and acknowledge the just the seeing, just the hearing, and so on.
එතකොට ස්පර්ශයන් නම් ස්පර්ශය.
Like that, just the seen as the seen, heard as heard, touched or felt things as felt, touched and felt.
ඒ වගේම ඇඟේ වේදනා තියෙනව නේද?
So together with that, there are different pains or unpleasant experiences in the body.
වේදනාව කියන එකත් මෙහෙමයි කියලා කියා දෙන්න පුළුවන් එකක් නෙමෙයි මොනවා හරි අරමුණක් වේදනාව කියා දෙන්න බෑ කියන්න කෙනෙකුට.
So the Vedana itself is translated as feeling. I don't like the translation too much. I prefer like experiencing. So Lokam says this Vedana itself is very difficult to understand what that is.
වේදනාව අරමුණු පහකින් කියා දෙන්න පුළුවන්.
How we can somehow point out to the Vedana or experiencing through 5 objects that it like latches on.
කායේවට කියනවා සුඛ දුක් කියලා.
So if there are objects experienced through the physical body, we call them pleasant feeling, or unpleasant feeling means pleasant bodily feeling, and unpleasant bodily feeling or pain.
සුඛ දුක් සෝමනස දෝමනස කියලා කියනවා මනසේවට.
So on the mind or mental side of the experience, so you have objects that are experienced as mentally pleasant or mentally unpleasant.
කායේත් ඒ විදිහට හත ගන්න මනසෙත් හත ගන්න ඒක උපේක්ඛා කියලා.
And both in the mind and body, there is this equanimous kind of neutral feeling, which is the 5th one.
ඒ වේදනාව ගොදුරු කරගන්න අරමුණු පහ ගැන කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. වේදනාව ගැන කිසි කෙනෙකුට කතා කරන්න බෑ.
Lokam is the feeling itself, or the Vedana or experiencing itself. One cannot really apprehend it and talk about it because we always talk about what is like the object of the feeling, which is the pleasantness or unpleasantness or neutrality.
ආන්ගේ වේදනාව ඒ අරමුණු පහෙන් තොරව යම් වෙලාවක තියෙනවා නම් ඒකට කියනවා ඵලසිතයි කියලා.
So
මාර්ග ඵල
there is something like experience where this experiencing is happening with outside of the pleasant and unpleasant bodily, mental, and neutral. And that kind of Vedana is the Vedana available in what is called the fruition moment.
ඒ අරමුණු පහෙන් වෙනු මිදීමට කියනවා මේ ඵලසිත කියලා.
So normally the object of the feeling is pleasantness bodily or mental, unpleasantness bodily or mental, and neutrality. That's the 5 objects of the feelings that are there always. But there is a kind of experience which is free from that or completely outside of that, and that is what is called the experiencing or feeling available in this fruition moment.
පළතිත්තට එන්ඩ ඉස්සෙල්ලා මේ අස්කන්නාතා වලින් හටගන්න අරමුණු තියෙන්නේ මොනවරි වේදනා මොනවා ඒවැ තණ්හාමාන දිට්ඨි හදන්න නැතුව ඉන්නවා සම්පජාඤ්ඤය සතියෙන් සම්පජාඤ්ඤය.
So but this fruition moment so anyway, so this is kind of like the end of the practice. So but before that happens, one needs to practice in such a way where the object coming through the normal senses, which trigger these pleasant and unpleasant neutral feelings, don't trigger any craving, conceit and views, and that happens when the yogi has sati and clear comprehension.
සතිය කියලා කියන්නේ උපාදාන වෙන කරුණු තුනට මනසට ඇතුල් වෙන්න ඉඩ දෙන්නේ නැහැ. වේදනාවට ඇතුල් වෙන්න ඉඩ දෙන්නේ නැහැ.
So this sati translated in mindfulness, it is exactly that quality of mind which keeps the three things that are used for the clinging outside of the mind. It does not allow them enter the mind or the experience. So if one of these or more of these three things manage to sneak in our what we are experiencing, what is happening to us, then that is in that experience there is upadana or clinging happening.
උපාදාන වෙන්න ඇතුණා සෝතාපන්න කියන්නේ දිට්ඨියෙන් උපාදාන කරගන්න එක නැති කරගත්තා.
So now if the practice happens like this and the practitioner manages to have the enlightening experience for the first time, what happens with that, it's like experience that change everything, is that this view that normally works or produces some of the clingings is forever eradicated. So for the stream, somebody that has had the first realization, first kind of enlightening experience properly, is freed from this thing called view. So that means for the stream enterer or this first realization person, the clinging that happens through view stops happening.
අනාගාමී කියන්නේ මේ අත්කන්නාතාවලින් ගන්නවේ උපාදාන කරන්න.
So then altogether the scriptures recognize like four enlightening experiences, 4 stages. So the first one removes the views, and third one at that level, any kind of craving that is there with sensual and other objects stops functioning. The sensual craving is removed. The person has jhana or absorption, but there is no clinging there.
ඒ උපාදාන නැති වුණොත් ඉතින් හරි. සංයෝජන නැහැ කියලා කියනවා. කාම උපාදාන
හැබැයි අනාගාමිත තාම අර
භව උපාදාන තියෙනවා.
ජානේත උපාදාන තියෙනවා. So there was, I translated, that was my mistake. So the anagamis, that is the third realization person, that is free from the views forever and free from the sensual craving forever, still can has some kind of craving and clinging towards the meditative absorptions. So now if this non-returner person that has the third realizations at one point manages to cut through that means also his craving for becoming and other things is forever destroyed.
භව උපාදාන කොයිවන්නේ?
So bhava upadana is this translated as a craving becoming or craving existence.
ඒක මැරෙන්න ඕනේ මේ ජීවිතේම තමයි.
Then one does not need to die for it to function or see what that is. One can like see about that already in this very life now.
Okay, I think ක්‍රමානුකූලව අර සති සම්පජාන්නේ දිනු කර ගැනීමෙන් තමයි ඒක වෙන්නේ.
All these happens gradually, step by step, and together with practicing sati and clear comprehension. So as one gradually, step by step, keeps on developing those mentioned things, how the defilements and things are reduced and cut forever happens.
ඉතින් ඒකට බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ මේ සති සම්පජාන්නේ දිනු කර ගන්න ක්‍රම හතරක් කියා දුන්නා.
So the Buddha gave us a kind of manual or way how to achieve this. So there are 4 ways how to establish and develop this sati and clear comprehension.
කායානුපස්සනා, වේදනානුපස්සනා, චිත්ත ධම්මානුපස්සනා.
So in Pali they are called Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, and Dhammanupassana, or the 4 foundations of sati or mindfulness. Translated as contemplating the body, contemplating the feelings, contemplating mind, and contemplating phenomena, or it can be called also observing.
අනුපස්සනාවෙන් දැනගන්නේ ස්කන්ධය.
So this word contemplating or observing is better to explain what that word means. The Pali counterpart is anupassana. So Lokam says, as you observe or like pay attention to those things, you start understanding them in terms of sense basis, aggregates, and the elements.
ස්කන්ධය ධාතු ආයතනය ස්කන්ධය තේරුම් ගන්නවා ධාතුව තේරුම් ගන්නවා ආයතනය තේරුම් ගන්නවා ඒක අනුපස්සනා.
So once you start like experiencing within your practice, understanding the object in terms of aggregates, sense basis, and so-called elements, then you can say this anupassana or this so-called contemplation or observation proper is happening.
ස්කන්ධය කිව්වම මේක මේ රූපය පොඩි එක කැඩි වලින් හැදිච්ච එකක්.
So when we say khanda or aggregates, that means it's kind of something that is a kind of combination of many small things.
ඒ වගේ වේදනාව කියන්නේ පොඩි
So the body itself is like a collection of these small things that are just kind of in a way working together. Likewise, feelings or experiencings are like that.
චිත්තානුපස්සනා කියන්නේ එක සිතිවිලි වලින් හැදිච්ච එකක්.
So first one observes the body and just sees how it is this combination of things happening on the like physical bodily level. With the feelings, one observes the experiencings itself, and he sees again sees how it is like bunch of different experiencings just happening. With the mind, one observes, becomes aware how there are different mind states here and there. And the last one translated is like contemplating or observing phenomena or dhammas. So dhamma here means really like mind concomitance or phenomena.
ධම්මානුපස්සනාව කියන්නේ මේ කරුණු තුනේ හැදිච්ච ඒවා පිළි අරගෙන රූප පොඩි රූප කලා පොඩි වේදනා පොඩි නෙමෙයි ඉතින් ඒ ගොඩවල් හැදිච්ච ඒවා එකක් වශයෙන් පිළි අරගෙන ඉන්නවා.
ඒ කියන්නේ
කායානුපස්සනාවත් පිළි අරගෙන.
හැබැයි අර ධම්මානුපස්සන තුනම එකපාරටම
පිළි අරගෙන.
So basically the Dhammanupassana, contemplating, observing the phenomena, is when at once you within whatever is happening to you just at that moment, you see how part of that experience is this bodily physical things, all kind of things coming together, combined with the experiencing of that what is happening, which is the observing the feelings, and also the mind state and mind things. So at the same moment, you see these different facets of the what experience or what is happening to you.
මේ කරුණු තුනෙන් අටගත්ත මේ ඒවා ටික තියෙනවා ධම්මානුපස්සනා අතරේ. ඒතකොට ඒක ඒ අතරට මම කියලා මගේ ආත්මය කියලා හදා ගන්නවා හිතින්.
what normally happens with these things for a non-practitioner especially is that is where this combination of body experiencing mind and mind concomitants is the thing that helps us to produce the sense of me, sense of my, and the sense of this is myself.
Oh, Mama Gyan
True self.
Mama Gyan Mane, Mage Gyan Tana, Mama Gilkan Ditya.
So there is another way of looking at those three, that is me, my, and my true self. So the me is actually the conceit there. My or my things, my experiencing is the craving there, and my true self is the view.
මේ පිළිගැනීම ක්‍රමානුකූලව හිතේ නැති වෙන එකට කියනවා විපස්සනාව කියලා.
So what normally happens, the experience is accepted, or we can even say apprehended through accepting it as me, my, and myself there. So what we call properly vipassana or insight practice is where this way of accepting things in that way is gradually reduced.
මමෙක් නෑ, මගේ නෑ, මගේ ආත්මය නෑ කියන එක එහෙම එකක් නෑ කියලා
Anupassana vela.
අනුපස්සනා වෙලා ඒකට ඒවට කියන විපස්සනා.
So this anupassana or observing proper or so-called contemplating it is in the context of the Satipatthana Sutta means this you stop seeing this what is happening to you as me, my, or myself, and it just is the experience itself is there. And that's when that starts happening continuously, then we say this is the vipassana or the insight practice.
ඒක ඇතුලේ එහෙම ඉඳගෙන එහෙම පිළිගන්නේ නැතුව ඒක ඉඳගෙන ඒක ඇතුලේ හොයන ඒවට කියන සමතයි කියලා. පිළිගන්නේ විපස්සනාවට මේක ස්කන්ධයක් මේ ධාතුවක් ආයතනයෙන් පිළිගන්නේ.
So if you are staying and doing something where you search about those things but never go towards the side which sees there is actually no me, my, and my true self is in the experience. Lokam says this is what we call samatha or tranquility meditation, which is divorced from the vipassana or insight practice. Because through that kind of practice, a kind of bhava, translated as becoming or existence, is being produced. The way of vipassana leads the other way around. That means it stops and reduces the production of bhava or this renewal of existence. So before the Buddha's enlightenment, there were different spiritual practices available in the world, and the word Nibbana was already known, but very often this tranquility practice goals were understood as the Nibbana. So this, what Lokam said, still was productions of some kind of existence, was considered by different spiritual practitioners as Nibbana. And people that still were within the big circle of existences, they were believed to be arahats because already before the Buddha's enlightenment, there was this idea that the fully liberated or realized person is called an arahat, and that person has achieved nibbana. But because of their wrong understanding of taking those very high and developed meditative levels as arahatship and nibbana, there was this misunderstanding. So if you know, this is actually, I think in the Vinaya scriptures is a kind of funny story. One of the first big group of disciples that started following the Buddha and became the first big groups of monks were called the groups of the Kassapa's brothers. So there were 3 brothers. Each of them was head of a kind of spiritual sect, let's say, of practitioners that were living as ascetics and doing some kind of practice. And the big brother had like 500 people, the younger 300, and the youngest 200. So the Buddha saw a potential in the eldest brother and came to stay in where that monk was, that ascetic was staying. So when he came, this eldest brother called Uruvela Kassapa was thinking this way: oh, this ascetic Gautama, that is our Buddha. So this is he was known by other ascetics as ascetic Gautama. So, oh, this ascetic Gautama, he is indeed very mighty and very powerful with all kind of psychic abilities, yet he is not an arahant like I am, or like we are. So then the Buddha had to perform all kind of miracles and like amazing things. And after each and every amazing thing, this Uruvela Kassapa ascetic still thought, oh, this ascetic Gautama is indeed very mighty, full of like he might say magical powers, yet he's not an arahat like we are. So
එතකොට ඒ කාලේ හිටියන ශාස්ත්‍රවරු ශාස්ත්‍රවරු ඒ හැම කෙනෙක්ම ඒගොල්ලෝ නිදාත හොයා ගත්තයි කියලා කිව්වා.
Or in the scriptures, if you read the suttas, quite often there is a mention of so there were these six prominent teachers in the Buddha's times, and they themselves proclaimed they have achieved the liberation, the like highest realization, and they were considered like that by many. So each and every of them thought they have achieved something, but all of them were wrong.
එතකොට බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ ඒ උපාදානෝනේ නිදාත ඒගොල්ලෝ උපාදානෝ මොනවාරි උපාදාන කරගෙන හිටියා.
So the Buddha has achieved being free from any and all kind of clinging, whereas with those even with those 6 spiritual leaders, teachers of those times, they had different kinds of clinging still going on. The very famous so-called first real sutta, the discourse on the setting on motion of the wheel of Dhamma, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. The Buddha starts off telling this group of 5 monks, one should avoid the 2 extremes.
අන්තවලට යන්නේ නැතුව මධ්‍යම ප්‍රතිපදා තථාගතයන් අභිසම්බුද්ධා.
It is like for somebody that wants to do like the spiritual practice, let's say, one should avoid the 2 extremes and instead walk on or walk on or go on along the practice of the middle path.
තථාගතයන් අභිසම්බුද්ධ චක්කුකරණී ඥානකරණී උපසමායි.
And so this middle path has been found out by the Tathagata, meaning the Buddha, the fully realized person. And it is this very way, this middle path is something that produces so-called I and produces profound understanding.
චක්කුකරණී මේ ඇති කරලා බලන්න පුළුවන් මේ මේක දිහා බලන්න පුළුවන් මේක බලන්න නැතුව වහන්නේ.
So Lakam says that I here means the real like what we call the sense or organ of I, means it allows you to truly see what is happening here without it being clouded or covered up by other things.
මේ ස්කන්ධ පංචකය දිහා බලන්න පුළුවන් චක්කුව ඥානකරණයක නුවණින් බලන්න පුළුවන්.
So කියන්නේ අර බැලීම තුළ අර නිකන්
නුවණ ඇති වෙනවා.
No, not that. So what you see, this what we call ourselves is just these 5 aggregates. They are clearly seeing for what they are, and with that, there is this profound understanding of those things. So it is producing, it produces or makes the I arise, makes the understanding arise. Something so the next word mentioned is so the next word is somewhat difficult to translate. It means like it leads to this release or complete calming of. So that means calming of all the defilements. It also leads to this direct supra knowledge. And Nibbana, it also leads to Nibbana. So the word samvartate at the end of the line should be applied to each and every of them, and it means like it turns towards or leads one towards. So it leads one towards the producing of seeing the things clearly, and it leads to producing the understanding about those things, which makes for the complete tranquility or calmness or cooling off all the defilements, which leads to this direct knowledge and Nibbana. So the first thing mentioned there is Chakkukarani. So it makes the eye arise, produces the eye. So people have eyes, the physical eyes, like the two eye bulbs we have, functioning well and nicely. So they are like sounds of people living with functioning eyes, but for them this special eye mentioned here is still closed. So this is the eye that sees the what is there is the sense basis and aggregates and elements. So producing this kind of special eye is extremely difficult. One can't rush it. So if you like try to use some trick how to rush it, it's not going to work. If you go about things too slowly or in a relaxed way, it's not going to work. If one thinks about past and future things, it's also not going to work. If you have some wanting or holding on to or rejecting, it's also not going to work. Or if you have expectations or kind of pondering, means especially analyzing things, it's also not going to work. So if you manage to state out of these 8 things, you might manage to produce this certain clear comprehension. So Lokan says we might not be and really probably able to stay 24/7 within the certain clear comprehension, but Lokan says even so Lokan says even if you try and manage to do like 4 or 5 hours, then you are at least walking towards that goal. So now for you, you have the complications of the lay life. So you have like things to do at home with your family, and sometimes maybe problems or issues at work and all kind of other problems. So Lokam says David Leonard is somebody called Cynthia, and you have to like look after her or something like that. So if people have kids, then they have to look after their kids. So then most of you probably have to do some kind of job.
ඒ අතරතුර බණ කියන්නත් ඕනේ.
Eh?
බණ කියන්නත් ඕනේ.
And for David, on top of that, he has to organize this kind of Dhamma talks.
ඔව් ඉතින් ඒ අතරතුර යාළු මිත්‍රයෝ කිය සමගියෙන් ඉන්නත් ඕනේ.
And for that also you need to stay in touch and then like associate with a bunch of friends.
ඉතින් ඒ අතරතුර මේ සති සම්පජාඤ්ඤයෙන් ඉන්න ඉතින් කොහොමද
But
ටිකක්.
somehow in between, whenever it's possible, if you try to stay with certain clear comprehension, that's good.
ඉතින් සති සම්පජාඤ්ඤයෙන් ඉන්න තරමට ආරේෂ්ඨාංග මාර්ගයේ ගමන තමයි.
Actually, it is, one can say it is this way, the Eightfold Noble Path, which is the middle path that the Buddha mentions, is happening or functioning within your life to the extent to which you manage to develop and keep the sati and clear comprehension. Is it like a direct correlation between sati and clear comprehension and the development of the Eightfold Noble
සති
Path?
සම්පජාඤ්ඤයට උපකාර වෙන ධර්මතාවයක් තමයි සීලය.
So the things that assist and helps sati and clear comprehension is sila, translated as morality or virtue.
අඩු ගන්න පන්තිවත් ඕනේ.
So at the bare minimum, at least one needs to have what is known as 5 precepts.
ඒවෙන් අපිට ශ්‍රද්ධාව හැදෙනවා.
So for that, within that, our faith or confidence, saddha is there.
ඔව් ඉතින් තෙරුවන් කෙරෙහි විශ්වාසයක් ඇති වෙනවා.
And that means producing the faith or confidence in the triple gem, especially that like the Buddha's enlightenment was a real thing.
ඊට පස්සේ අර සීලයයි ශ්‍රද්ධාවයි තියෙනවා නම් ඊට පස්සේ අපිට මේ මග ගමන් කිරීම ලේසි.
So if you have those two, that is, you are based in some kind of virtue, which is coupled with this faith or confidence, then walking the path is not that difficult, or it is somewhat easier to do.
වීර්යකුත් ඇති වෙනවා.
So then virya or this mental effort also starts arising.
වීර්යය. ඉතින් මේ ගමන ආතාවි සම්පජානෝ සතිමා. ආතාවි කියන්නේ අර වීර්ය සම්පජානෝ කියන්නේ සතිමා කියන්නේ සිය මේ කර්ම තුන තමයි අපමාදේන භික්ඛවේ.
So now Lukam said this is kind of, if you know the Satipatthana Sutta, the sutta about the establishments of sati or mindfulness, at the real beginning, it mentions these three things. When you are doing the observing or contemplation of the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena, you have to have these three things: atapi, sampajano, and satima. Atapi is this kind of effort, or like, let's say, effort to burn away all the defilements. So they translate it in the English translations, one is being ardent, because the Pali word has the fire that are reeling within the word. Then atapi, satima means having sati or mindfulness, and sampajanya being clearly comprehending. So these three things you have when you want to do the contemplation or observing the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. And these three things, there is another word for them used as a kind of bracket term, and the Pali word is appamada. Appamada is usually translated as non-negligence or diligence, and that is the like Buddha's last kind of advice to the monks before he passed away. He said, "Oh monks, strive without negligence." So being without negligence means having this ardent energy for destroying the defilements, burning them away, coupled with sati and clear comprehension.
ඉතින් මේක ගිහි පැවිදි දෙගොල්ලන්ටම පුළුවන් ඉතින්.
It is possible for both the ordained people as well as lay people.
භික්ඛවේ භික්ඛු කියලා බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ එතන කතා. හැමතැනම භික්ඛවේ විතරයි කතා නෙවෙයි භික්ඛවේ භික්ඛු කියලා දෙකක් කතා කරනවා.
So here in most places you have just one way of address, like the word bhikkhave and bhikkhu is in the older translations translated monks or oh monks. So but in this place it is used in two ways. One is vocative plural, and the other one is a nominative singular.
භික්කවේ කියලා කතා කළේ ඒ වෙලේ බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ ළඟ හිටපු භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා කිස මුඩු කරලා දිවුරු පොරපගත්තේ.
So here, when both terms are used, the vocative plural, that is this "oh monks," that means when the Buddha was talking, there were some monks near him and he needed to like address the people that were there. So he addressed them by using the monks, saying "oh monks."
බික්කු කියලා කතා කළේ භික්කවේ කියලා ඉතලා බික්කු කියලා කතා කළේ මේ ගමන යන ඕන කෙනෙක් ගියාට.
So then he was going to explain about a practitioner. So the second word bhikkhu here, that's the nominative singular here, is, even though the word bhikkhu is used, it actually stands for somebody that is genuinely trying to practice what the Buddha was teaching. So this bhikkave bhikkhu might be translated even as "oh monks." A practitioner is doing these and these things.
මේක ඉතින් ඕනම කෙනෙකුට පුළුවන් එකක් අද එස්කන්නාත හොඳට දින ඕනම කෙනෙකුට පුළුවන්.
Anybody really can do that. Nobody should have any trouble because you just use your eyes, ears, or whatever you have functioning for that practice.
ඉතින් එහෙම පොඩු කරන් යන්න කියලා කියන්නේ ඉතින් දෙවිල්ලනාට තමුන්ගේ යාළුවන්ට.
So Lokamu's encouraging David, like David, firstly you tell and encourage your friends to start walking this path.
ඉතින් ඇතිද කියලා අහන්න මේ කියලා.
Lokam says, is asking, is this enough or this should be enough? Bante, then Namaya. So Lokam has to drink some, get some medicine.